Okay, so today in this class we will be starting with the topic of OOPS concept, and we will be looking at the basic difference between object and object referencing along with the constructors. This will be the Python part in this class, and then we will move on with the Selenium concept and we will see what we can do in that. Okay. So to start with OOPS concept, I'm not going into the basic OOP concept that why is it required and all that. That I'm not going to start with. I'm just going to, okay. Is my voice there, Satyajit? Alok, are you facing the issue with my voice?
I'm able to hear you.
Okay. So, I guess Satyajit, you should check your microphone if you are using the earphones or headphones once. If there is no voice from my end. So I'm proceeding further, Satyajit. I hope you'll try to get it connected. If you face any issue, please let me know. Okay. So now what I'm going to show you first is how we create the different classes and different functions in Python. What is the syntax for that? And then we will move on with the object and object referencing. Okay. So yesterday we made the project. I'm going to continue with that only. And I'm going to create a Python file and I'll name it as oops only. Now to create a function in Python is very easy because you just need to use a keyword def followed by the name of the function that you want to give. Like for example, I want to give the name of my function as demo1 for suppose. And inside this function and at the end I have to complete it with the with the colons. Fine. Now inside this, once you press enter, it will automatically take a tab space. Python is very strict about the blank spaces. So once you are having this automatic space, that means the function that you have made has been created and now you can work on it when till the time your space is there, the function scope is going to be there. Okay. Now if I write print creating a function. Fine. Now after this, okay, let me just. So now this is my function. Now I am out of this space. I don't have any extra space now. So this means my function scope is this only. Outside this function, I need to call it now so to see the output. So calling the function is easy. Just take the name of the function followed by a pair of parentheses and that's it. No extra semicolons, no extra colons you have to put anywhere. Just this what you need to do. Fine. After this, just run your module and you get the output over here for your function that you have created. Okay. The same way is the creation of the class. For class creation, you just use the keyword class and followed by the name of the class that you want to use. I want to use it as basic followed by semicolon. For this you don't have to put the parenthesis, colon is fine. Again the space indent is taking, that means the class scope has been started and you can work on it. Now inside this class I can have class members, I can have variables. Let's say I have a variable a equals to 100. So I can use this variable very well fine, but to use this variable I have to make the function. I'll say def demo1. Now automatically a keyword comes up, that is the self keyword. This self keyword is going to help you to access the another functions that you are going to make inside the class and the class variables, whichever you will be making. Without this self keyword, you will not be able to access the outside members of the function. Fine, if I try to print simply A, I just try to print A. So it's going to give me an error that A is not defined because it's a class member, it's not a function member. So I have to use the self keyword, self.A. Now, this is what I just want to show in the class. I just want to use this class this much. And after that, I just want to call this class to see the output. Same way we have done for the function, the same way we will be doing for the class. For the class name, basic. Now by this particular syntax, we have created an object for my basic class. Because without creating the object, I won't be able to access this demo1. I'll name it something else. I name it as demo2 to show you that if I have not created this object, I am trying to access the function demo2. So you may see over here that in the help, I am not getting any of the function which is named by demo2. I am getting demo1 because it's over here outside the class. But outside the scope of this class, I am not able to use this function. So to access these functions, these variables, I will require to make an object. So over here my object is made. I'll put dot. Inside this class, as many as variables, as many as functions I have, I can access them anytime. I want to access demo2, I can just have it over here. I'll save it and I'll run this. So I get the output of what was desired to come out, the value of A. Fine. So this is the need of creating an object. Otherwise, if you don't have created the object, you won't be able to access the class. Fine. Now comes the difference between object and object referencing. To show that, I'm just going to create one more class and I'm going to name it as students. Now for the students, for a general student, what are the characteristics that it has? A name it has, roll number it has, subjects it have, then it has subject in charges, and likewise there are a number of characters that it holds. So over here what I'll be doing is I'll make two functions. One will be student name, the self attribute came up automatically so that I can access the rest of the members in the class. Whenever I will be calling this student name, I will pass the parameter that is the name of the student. That I'll have it over here. Now whatever will be coming I have to use it inside my function. So that I will be using through the self attribute, and I'll have it in a local variable which will be inside this particular class only. This is a local variable for this class. Outside the scope of this part, this name is not going to have any existence. Fine. Same way I'll print the name as well so that I can see name, and same way I'll make another function which is student marks, and here also I'll pass a parameter which is the marks of the student. Self dot marks is equals to marks. Now marks is also a local variable to this particular student's marks only. Print marks. Okay, now my class has been made. There are two functions inside. I just need to access them. So what I'll do is I'll make an object student dot. There are two functions inside and two variables. So I'll take the function first, that is student name, and I'll just will give any of the name, like say Ron, and I also need to have the marks of the student Ron only. So I'll just will do the same thing, student dot student marks. This is what I get. The syntax that we have studied till far goes on like this only, right? So over here I get the value of my name and the marks. But there is one issue. What that issue is that right now by this syntax, what is happening is basically that I am making a hanging object. A hanging object is made which has no relevance with the class till time. It has no identification. Inside this there is name for first call. Then in the second call, when I'm calling the marks, so a second object is being created in which just the marks is being stored. Because every time I'll write this, a new object will be created. So how we have to handle this? It's very simple. What we will do is, we will do this thing once only. We'll create student object once, and by this what will happen? A memory will be reserved for this object. What I'll do is, I'll make a reference for this object and I'll name it as S1, let's say. So what will happen is, when I have to access this object, I will use this reference S1. In this S1, now in the student class, what we had is name and the marks. So using this S1, I can have name as well, whatever I want to have, and marks as well, whatever the marks has been stored. And if I have to display the output only, then also using this reference only, I will be creating it. How? I'll show you. If I'll go back and I comment this part for the time, this is the object reference that I have made S1, and over here I have created the object student. Now using this S1, I'll call the function student name, that is Ron, and S1 dot student marks, that is 80. Now over here, only once this syntax has been used, one object has been created. Using the reference only, I am using these two functions very easily. As many as functions I have, as many as variables I have, I can access them using this reference only. Now if I run this, the output is going to be the same. Just the management has been changed, and now I can just call this S1 to see the result. Even if I make a function def show, this function is just going to display whatever is being passed in these two functions, the name and the marks of the student. So I'll just will remove the print statements from here. It will be only inside my show function. And I'll say print self dot name. This plus sign is used for the concatenation. In Python, the same data type is allowed to be concatenated. Now name is string and the marks are in the integer data type. So that's why I have to convert the marks into string so that the concatenation can be done and it does not give me any error. So I'll say self dot marks. That's done. Now over here I'll just will use s1 dot show function and I'll call it. So now it will return me the name and student from here, this way. The same way, if I create second object and I give the reference to it something else, let's say s2 is equals to student. So this time a second object has been created whose reference is s2. So I can give second student's data over here, student name, let's say Jerry, and marks of Jerry are 90, let's say, and over here I'll call the show function over here. So now this time two different data will be returned. First one will be the data stored in object 1 and second in the object 2. You can see in the output this way. So this is how the object creation and object referencing are different from each other. The management of the objects become very easy and there is no hanging object that has been made till time. Also, it's a possibility that if I have created a reference S1 and S2, it's not like that once the object reference has been created, it cannot point to another object. I can just say that whatever is in the S2 object, I want it to be equal to my S1 object. And now I will call S1 dot show. So now this will return me a different data. Now the reference of object 1 is returning me the data of object 2. Why? Because I have made it point to the second object. This is possible, but we do not practice this in real time because it can create a lot of confusion. But this is possible in Python. Okay? Any doubt, any question in this part? If you have, you can tell me.
All good so far.
Okay. To both it's clear, right? I can proceed further with the next topic. Okay. So next what we have to do is the constructor. Likewise in another languages, Python also support constructors, but if you are aware about the Java language, the constructors in Java are of same name as of the class name, right? It just does not have any return type and the calling is something different. I'm not that sure, but it's the same name of the class name. But in Python, there is a predefined name given to the constructor and we call it the same way we make the function. The predefined name is init. Double underscore init double underscore. This is the constructor in Python. Okay. So what the role is of this this constructor? What's the role of this? There are many roles that you can have. Like for example, in the student class, I'll take the example of this class only, that the student name and marks are being passed, but I want to make a list of a single subject. So what I can do is I can initialize the subject parameter over in this constructor and the list will be made for only that subject. When second time I will be creating the object, I will be taking on some another subject. The common parameter is being there. The same way, if for the student characteristics, I talked about the student characteristics, there is student name, student marks, likewise student roll number, student the class in charge, subject in charge, and there are more characteristics. And suppose I have to have all of them in my class. I have to make the full data of a student. So I have to make this kind of structure again and again. Right. I have to make different function. I'll say def student roll number and I'll pass the roll number and then I'll go on for as many as characteristics I have for the student with me. But what I can do is with the use of constructor, I can pass them at one go and using the self attribute, I can pass them into a variable so that whenever I want to use it, I can just pick it up from the constructor and can use it anytime. The two main uses of constructor are these only. But this constructor is very much useful when we have to work with the projects that you will see in the coming time. Right now I'm not going into that. But let's just make this constructor. The body has been created. In the constructors, there are two types of constructor that Python supports. One is the default one, which does not take any parameter. There is no parameter that has been passed to the constructor. The second one is the parameterized one. To this you can pass on the parameters whichever you want. First I'll show you the example of the default one and then we'll move on with the parameterized one. Okay, so being the default one, I have no parameters that I'll be passing, so I'll just will have a print statement in which I'll say demo for default constructor. Okay, so now if I run this, I have not made any of the change over here where I have created the objects. There is no change. I have not even called this constructor anywhere in my structure over here. I just will call this. You can see over here that the statement, the print statement that I have given in the constructor has been printed over in my console. Why is it so? Because whenever an object is created, the interpreter looks that whether there is some constructor given to this class or not. If it is given, then it checks that if it is a default one or a parameterized one. Now this is a default one, so no parameters were expected when I created the object. So it just ran the constructor very well fine. But in case I have a parameter over here, let's say subject. I have this parameter being passed. Now this, what will happen is, again when I'll run it, the interpreter will check at this point that whether a constructor is created or not. A constructor is created. Whether it's asking for a parameter or not, it is asking. So it will give me an error that you have not given a parameter which was passed, which is to be passed to the constructor. So I'll save this and I run this and I get a error over here. The same thing that I informed, the constructor is missing with a required positional argument. So now if I pass a subject over here, let's say mathematics, the same I will pass in the second object as well. Now this time it's not going to give me any error. It will run fine. You can see? This is the difference between the default and the parameterized constructor. Now I don't want this print statement to be over here. I want it to be used for my subject to be passed. So I'll have it as subject. Okay, now this is done. I need to use the parameter that I have passed in the constructor in my function over here. I want to be directly using it in my show function. So what I'll do is I'll just will come over here and I'll say self dot subject. Using the self attribute only, I am able to access it. Okay. Now if I run this, you can see over here in the console that the subject which I passed has been over here. This is how the object and the classes and the constructor works together. Any doubts in the constructor? Any questions? It feels like, yeah. So why I am telling you this, why I have introduced object-oriented programming only in between from the Python basics, because the Selenium that we are going to learn is going to follow the same architecture. In Selenium also there are classes made, there are functions made between the classes. So to access those classes, I will be requiring to make the objects, and I cannot make a hanging object. I have to create the reference for this so that I can use it throughout my script that I will be writing. Okay, so this is a need why I am telling you this. Now when I talk about Selenium, so for that I am just going to create a different package in which I'll just will have my Selenium part going on. Let me name it as I'll name it as day 2. This is day 2, so I'll name it as day 2. Inside this I will be creating a file, a module, and I'll name it as browsers, because today we are going to learn that how we can open up different browsers using the Selenium commands. Okay. This I'll do later on. So over here. So there is a very simple command. We have already seen the parameterized constructor. Yes. What's about the parameterized constructor, Alok?
You were about to tell that, right? Oh, okay, okay. You have finished it.
Yeah.
Sure. Sorry,
Yeah, this one I
missed
have
that.
covered.
Okay, sure. I
Yeah.
got it.
Okay. So to open up the browsers using the Selenium commands, it's very easy command. We have already seen the installation of Selenium in the last class, so we are just going to use it. Also, we have seen the configuration in the IDE, so will go on and I'll say import Selenium. This we have done yesterday as well. What I need to do is I need to open a browser. So inside this package Selenium, there has been inside a module, there is a class made, that is WebDriver. A WebDriver class has been made, and inside this WebDriver I have to get it imported. Import this name. So you get all the options over here. You have to get it selenium.webdriver. This is done. You can get off with the first one. WebDriver dot. Now in this, once you press dot, all the classes, all the variables that are made, they all are available over here. There is Chrome. This is a class by which you can open up the Chrome browser. The same way I have it for Edge. This will open up the Edge browser. Then Firefox, then Internet Explorer, and then I have the another ones like Opera, Phantom, Safari. Likewise, I can open any browser. So I'll open up Chrome browser, let's say. This is the only command that I have to use to open up the browser. I run this and you can see a blank Chrome browser opening itself and closing itself as well. But if you will do it in your system, this is not going to work. It's going to give you an error. What error it's going to give is that the executable path is not in place. I'll show you. On the official website of Selenium, you will get everything that which error is going to occur at which point. In the documentation, you will get it. I'm showing you that also so that in any case you stuck somewhere, you want to read about it, then you can. So once you go into the API docs, on this page you will get a section of drivers. When you will be running it on your system the very first time, you are going to get this error, this one. The driver name that is required to open up the browser, executable needs to be in path. This is the error that you're going to get. How to resolve it? To open up any browser, it's simply written over here that to open up any browser, you need to have the driver required to open those browsers. Like for Chrome, you need to get Chrome driver into your system. For Firefox, you need to get Gecko driver into your system. These are the drivers which are being provided by the browser providers itself. So you just need to get them downloaded into your system and keep it at a location. No need to run them. There is nothing that's going to open by running them. So just need to download them. So we will see that how to get these drivers into our system. Firstly, starting with the Chrome. So the link from where you will be getting the Chrome is over here. This one, the first one. This kind of page you will be getting up over here after this. Fine. Now to download the driver, the accurate driver you need to install for Chrome, you need to check which version of Chrome you are using in your system. That you can check from these three toggle button over here. Go into the help, about Google Chrome. Here it will tell you the version of Chrome that you are using. Once you see that which is this version, just go on to this page and look for the same series. Now I had 84.0.4147, right? So I'll click on this link. It will take me to the page where the zip files are available for drivers. According to the operating system, you need to get it into your system. For Windows, if you have, click on this. A zip file will be given to you like this way. Like this way, this is the Chrome driver. A zip file will be given to you. You just need to extract it, and a driver will be given to you. A executable file will be given to you, and you can keep it at a location. I have kept it in the C drive in a WebDrivers folder over here. This is my Chrome driver over here. So what you need to do now, after extracting the driver, you just need to go back to your IDE, and over here take a variable, let's say path, and to this variable pass on the path where you have kept the driver. Properties. You need to be very careful about the spellings, otherwise it is going to give you an error even if you have given the path correctly. Okay. Now giving path in Python is very specific. You can use double backward slashes, or you can use a single forward slash. That's totally up to you, but don't forget to change the slashes. Once you have done this, to this command you have to pass on the parameter, that is executable path. This is a parameter itself in the class, the WebDriver class, and you just need to pass on the path. That's it. What you have to do in your systems if you are doing it the very first time. After doing this, click run your module, and your browser will open up the way. Okay. Any doubts in this part? Getting the driver of Chrome? Okay. So the same way that we have Chrome driver, we have got Chrome driver for Chrome. The same way I can get the drivers for another browsers. Like I can get it for Firefox. Now for Firefox, the driver name is Gecko driver. So here is the link given on the same page. Open it in new tab. And this kind of page will be opening up. Now for Chrome, there are some specific things that you should be careful about. If I'll just open up the default Firefox, in Firefox what happens is that whenever a update comes up, there is some browser update that is coming up, the browser itself gets updated. And what happens exactly is the driver that you have in your particular system, sometimes that driver is not compatible with the recent version. That does happen in Firefox. So that's why we have to restrict the settings to a point that the updates whichever comes up does not itself gets downloaded into my browser. So I have to go into the options on my default Firefox, and over here you will get a section of updates. This one, the Firefox updates. Right now the version is 79.0 in my system. There is an update coming up that is 80.0, but it has not updated automatically because I have chosen this option. If you have this automatically install updates, 80.0 will be installed into your browser, and that can result in your Firefox not working because the driver is not compatible. So you make sure that you do this before downloading the driver for Firefox. After doing this, you can go back to this page. You'll scroll down and you will get this table. Out of this table, look for the system configuration, which is the appropriate zip file, and get it into your system. After getting it, you will get the zip file, extract the driver from it, and keep it at the same location where you have kept the Chrome driver, like I have done for this one. Here is my Geeko driver. Now what the command changes will be over here, the same thing is going to be, just with little changes. First, the driver name is going to be changed. It will become Geeko driver. Then I have to update over here as well that this time my Firefox browser is going to be opening. So that you need to update over here. These two changes that you have to do. Once this is done, save your code and run it. A blank Firefox browser will open up in your system. There is a default open. I'll close this. And you can see over here, a blank Firefox browser is opened over here. Okay. Likewise, these two, we can get the drivers for Edge and Internet Explorer from here only, from this page only. For Edge, I have it over here. The link is over here. This one. Okay, which one is this? There are so many open. Okay, let me just do it again. So this kind of page you will be getting up. Again, the same way for Chrome you have checked the version. You have to check the version for Edge as well. Go to your Edge browser, the default Edge browser. Go to this button over here, Help and Feedback, About Microsoft Edge. And there is the version that comes up. For in my case, it's 84.0.522. So I'll go on this page where I have to get the driver from, and I'll look for the same kind of version. This is the version I will be getting in my case. According to your configuration of the system, you can get it from here. Again, the zip file will be coming up. Extract the driver and keep it at the location where you have kept the other drivers. And after doing that, go back to your code. In the code, two changes. One is the change of this name. Now you are opening Edge browser, and the driver is also different. That is MS Edge driver. So I'll save this code and I run this. So a blank Edge browser will open up in my case this way, and it closed automatically. Fine. Left is one, that is Internet Explorer. For Internet Explorer, you have to go back over at this page, the downloads page. There is a separate section for Internet Explorer. You just need to get the zip file from here, from these two links, and keep it into the system and extract the driver out of it. Once you have came out with the driver, you have extracted the driver, what next you need to do is the settings in your Internet Explorer. The Internet Explorer requires a number of changes to be done in the default browser. Which changes? I'll tell you. Go to your default Internet Explorer. And over here, the options. The first thing that you need to look for is the zoom level. The third option, the zoom level. If it is 100%, then it's fine. But if it is something else than 100%, bring it to 100%. Okay. Otherwise, the Selenium code is going to throw an error that the zoom level is not appropriate. Fine. Once you have done the zoom level, go to the Internet options. Over in the Internet options, go to the Security tab, and all these options that you're seeing over here, bring this leveler to the lowest for every of the option, like I have done over here. Where there is no option, you cannot do anything for that, but where there is an option, just bring it to the lowest. Restricted site is also not option over here. After bringing the leveler to the lowest, uncheck this checkbox. In your case, it will be checked, enable protected mode. Uncheck this checkbox and move on to the next settings, that is in the advanced tab. In the advanced tab, you need to look for the security section. This is the security section. You have to check a checkbox. It will be at the second point, allow active content to run in files on my computer. You have to check this checkbox. These 4 settings, once they are done, click on apply and OK. That's it. That were the changes that you have to do in Internet Explorer before directly going to the code. Once the changes are done, you can close the default browser. It closed. Go back to your IDE, the PyCharm, and again here changes will be made. In my case, it's IE. I have to look for the name. Let me just see. It is IE driver server. And the name of the browser will also change to IE. Okay. Save your code. A blank Internet Explorer will open up this way. No extra warnings, no extra pop-ups will come up after doing the changes. If you open up the Internet Explorer without changing those without making those changes, unrequired pop-up will come up. So just make the changes first and then run the code. Any doubts in the part that we have done till now, the drivers part?
I have a question on IE driver specifically.
Yeah.
So basically what happens that if I'm doing it on my local system, it's fine. I can go and add changes. And is there a way I can handle it through capabilities? That's one. And the second question is that if I'm working on the cloud application wherein I'm setting every time so for example, a build is fired, every time I'm running some regression test case or some smoke test on my cloud platform.
Yeah.
So in that way, what happens that it will create the instance, and in that instance, it will automatically download all the web browsers and then run on it. So in that case, I cannot go there and change every time for IEs or not, because I won't be knowing which instance it will be working on.
Okay.
So how it's gonna help in that case?
Okay. For that topic is way too far, that how we can handle the capabilities. Okay. Right now, I'm just telling you how to open up the browsers. That topic is way too far.
So in local system as well, so yeah. Later on we can handle it through capabilities, right?
Yes.
It's not that we have to do it mandatory.
Yes. That we will discuss when we reach at this point.
Oh, then fine.
There is a specific topic for that. Don't worry about that. But if there is any question in this part, then you can let me know.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay. So now usually what question comes up, that do we have to give this path every time into our system, into our code? Actually not, you don't have to give it every time. What you can do is you can add these drivers into your system variables. The reason for keeping all the drivers in a single folder is this only, that when we have to add it into the system variables, we can just pick this folder from here and we can add them over there. So what we can do is just go to your environment variables. And over here you have to go into the path variable. In the system variables, go to path, edit it, and drop your folder's address over here this way that I have done over here. Okay. After doing this, click on OK. Click on 3 of the OKs, otherwise the settings will not be done. Then try to run this code without giving this path. Try to run the code. You might get an error. Why? Because you have made the changes in the system variable. So you need to make them applicable in your system. So you have to give your system a restart. Okay. After restarting, if you try to run your code to open up the browsers without giving the path, it will run fine. Okay. After going to the URLs, like over here you can see that there is a hanging object that has been made. There is no reference to it. So what I can do is I can make a reference as well by saying you can give any name. I'll give it as driver. Now using this reference only, I will be making rest of the code. After opening the browser, I need to go to some URL. What URL I'll be using? What is the function that I'm going to use? So there is a specific class. If I'll show you, a proper class is there that is named WebDriver itself, and in that class, it did not click in the docs, the WebDriver class. In this WebDriver class, you will find all the generic functions that you can fire on any browser. Any browser, that means any, the Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge, anyone. Out of these functions only, we are going to select a function to open up a browser. And that function is get function, this one. This will help you to navigate to some URL. So I'll be using this function only, and I'll say driver.get, and over here I will be just passing the URL. Let's say I want to open up facebook.com. This I want to open. So I'll save this and run this. The Internet Explorer browser opened up and it is navigating me, it's routing me to the facebook.com page, the login page. This way. Fine. So this way you can fire this command on any of the browser. You can use it on Chrome, Firefox, Edge, anywhere you want. There is one more thing that we have to cover today, is that suppose there is a script that I have written for login into my Facebook page, for suppose, and I have to test that same script on all the browsers that are written over here. I have to check it on Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Internet Explorer, on 4. Then how I can handle that? That is a very generic question that is asked by number of people. So what we can do is we can take the help of the decision making statements. I can just create one more module and I'll name it as dynamic browsers, that at the time I have to run it, I can select the browser I want to choose. So simple, it's very simple. Just go on and take a variable browser name equals to, right now I'm keeping it blank, I'm not passing on any data inside, and then I'll say if browser name is equals to Chrome, then what needs to be done is driver equals to WebDriver dot, now import it, you have to import this WebDriver.Chrome. The same way if you have it for Firefox, you want to open up Firefox, then you can have elif condition over here to check multiple conditions. This is the syntax in Python. Browser name, if it is equals to Firefox, then open up dot Firefox. The same way you can have it for another as well. For Edge, elif browser name equals to Edge driver equals to WebDriver dot Edge. Now there are another browsers as well, like Safari and Opera browsers are also there, but that we do not use because of their uncompatibility with the commands. There are some commands of Selenium which does not work fine on those browsers. So that's why we refrain ourselves from using that. WebDriver.ie. At the end I can have else as well, the else block. In any case, I forgot to provide any data to my variable. If I just forgot it, so I can just have a print statement saying no browser specified. Fine. This is a structure that I can follow. Now over here, if I'll give the command over here as driver.get function and navigate to my URL whichever I want. So it will be a repetition because I am writing the same script in all the conditions. So I will not have the script over here. This is just for the browser to be opening. The script I will have outside the scope of this decision making block, and I'll say driver.get which URL I want to open, https, let's say facebook.com. This I want to open. Fine. Now let's say I am having Firefox browser. So I save this code and I run this. A blank Firefox browser opened up. It will navigate me to the URL that I have specified. Fine. So this is how actually the dynamic browsers work. You can just have the script written once and let the browsers change according to your wish. Now it's little slow, so that's why it's taking time to load. So this way my facebook.com has been over here on my Firefox browser. The same I can do with others as well. Over here the concept comes the exception handling. Like for suppose I forgot to give any value to this variable. I forgot it. So this driver has nothing to go to. There is no browser that is going to open up. So it's going to give me an error that where it has to open up facebook.com. So it gives me an error. Driver is not defined. So what I can do is whichever script I have, I want to test, I can keep it in the try block and I can say that if driver is not equals to none, then only run the script, then only execute these commands. Otherwise directly go to my except block and catch the error that comes up as E and print the stack trace error. The stack trace error will be this one which is coming up over here in my console. Okay, so now if I run this, my program has not terminated abnormally. It has been terminated absolutely fine with catching the exception that comes up. Okay. Any doubts, any questions in this part? Okay, so all is good. There is no doubt. This was all for this class that I wanted to cover. I'll request you to please practice all these, then only you will get a hand on the topics. Okay. So I'll see you in the next class. Do practice. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jasprit. Can you please also share the link of this
yeah,
once
sure.
you upload it?
Sure.
Well, yesterday we didn't share it. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks then. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Was there any kind of doubts from your end, Satyajit?
Hey, Jaspreet, like today was my first class, so
Yeah.
I think I need to go through the previous session as well.
Yeah.
However, I wanted to discuss a couple of things, but then like I have a meeting at 8, so
Okay.
is it possible like tomorrow if I join a little early, can I discuss with you?
Yes, what you can do is like I send a invitation reminder at around 15 minutes before the class. So you can discuss with me
Okay.
15 minutes that we start between that point. At that time we can discuss.
Sure.
Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so you can join at 4:15 yesterday in the next class. I'll send the reminder and then we'll discuss. Till the time I have already
Okay, fine.
shared the link of the first class with you. You can go through this. Once this class video is uploaded, you will get the link of this as well. Go through this and practice it once. Okay?
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And just one quick one. So, is that like you're going to even teach the basics of Python, or it is a kind of self-learning for me?
See, the Python concepts I'm going to take along. I'm not going to specifically take the Python basics exceptionally, but by the time we are moving further, like today we have done the dynamic browser concept. So in that we have seen the decision making conditions, the if else condition. So that is the part of Python basics. So by the time we are using those concepts, I will be doing that. Rest, if you want to practice the Python basics exceptionally, the first 10 modules are for the Python basics only. You can once go through them, you will be able to understand them at one go. There will be no tough thing for you because Python is very easy to work with. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any more doubts, any more questions?
Fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, nothing as of now,
Oh.
but let me discuss with you tomorrow.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.